All right. I am here with Don Andrews, the
Hey,
CEO of
everybody.
Free Range Thinking. How's it going, Don?
It's going so good. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, it's great to be here and great to connect. I'm excited to get to some of the tactical stuff, but before we do, let's talk about your
Mm.
background. What got you started?
Yeah, so I'm a business strategy consultant and an executive leadership coach. And I also grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So we owned family businesses and exited from family businesses, sometimes gracefully, sometimes not. Um, and so that's what got me started. I started working with family when I was 13 and then eventually um, went into organizational development and started working with founders and business owners and helping them with all of the ups, downs, and everything in between that it takes to launch and operate and exit from their businesses. And my specialty is working on the culture, community, and leadership part of being a founder. And then I'm a left brain, right brain kind of person. So then the matching part is the systems and processes that go with that. So I like to say that I can help handle the emotional and the tactical when it comes to operating your business and the, terrifying and exciting parts of getting out of it.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that with like processes because a lot of times when we think about valuations of businesses, people sort of look at one or two numbers and they say like, okay, number go up, number big as revenue. But
Yeah.
without a process in place, it's really not very valuable to a buyer because it can't translate over
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
buyers just are all like they're looking for ease. They want to know that something is buttoned up and that they can go in and step in on day one and have a reasonable chance of success with what's existing presently. It's sort of like, do you want to buy a fixer-upper house and how much do you pay for a fixer-upper? How much do you pay for something that is reasonably move-in ready? And how much do you pay for something that is like, all I have to do is roll out a carpet and I'm ready to go? So if you can make your business as polished and ready to move in as possible, then you'll get a higher valuation. And that requires all of those processes to be in place because it can't all be in your head and heart, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. In your head and heart. So let's talk
Yeah.
about some of these processes. So
Yeah.
I'd like to just get right into it with
Sure.
some of the things that, every business is different as context for everybody listening. Every industry requires different things, but let's talk about the baseline. Like how can people really start developing these processes and getting these things in place early on?
Yeah. So the first place that I look when building processes is your money. Like, how are you? Because that's the first place that a buyer is going to look is at the operational part of your numbers. So it's not just revenue, like how much money is coming in or out, but what does it take to get that revenue? What's your cost per client? What are your costs for marketing to generate leads coming in? And in terms of setting up, and what does it cost for you to hire and retain the team that you have? So when it comes to those kinds of things, if you haven't emptied it out of your head already, just start there. Like there are
Mhm.
so many business owners that I work with that are in seven figures and beyond that don't have an operational manual. And if it's still in your head or even in the head of the people that you've passed things off to, we use tools like Tango to be able to pull it out of your head. You can use AI to pull some of these processes out, meaning you could say, okay, AI, like ChatGPT, um, give me a basic workflow for tracking my revenue numbers on a monthly basis. What input do you need from me to be able to put together that workflow? And it can give you a starting point and then you can refine it from there. So, any business owner that doesn't have their numbers process in order getting it all out of your head and using tools to help you make it go faster, I think is a great starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. Tools to get it out of your head, I think that's a
Hmm.
great tip. Find the good tools
Yeah.
out there to get it out, get it into some, easy formatable piece of content that the buyer can
Can
use.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to come up when you do due diligence anyway, so why not get it out now?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another kind of fun thread that I like to bring up on the show, especially when I'm talking to, successful women on the show like yourself, I wanted to ask about like other female founders out there. Like what are some things that you would say are a hurdle to women in business as opposed to like a male founder, and how can they overcome that you've seen with your clients that are successful?
Underestimation.
Hmm.
That's the biggest hurdle. And there's a lot that's nested underneath that, like bias, history, etc. But underestimation, both from buyers looking at your business, but from you looking at yourself as the seller of a business, especially if it's your first business and your first exit.
Hmm.
I think that um, women women are often, look, we're fighting like centuries of societal understanding of what women are capable of, and we are capable of everything that men are capable of. But most buyers are used to being in the room with men who relate in a particular way to other men. So, what we can do as women is to be incredibly buttoned up and prepared, know your numbers, know your story, make it relatable, be able to explain why you had up and down years in the 5 years prior to your sale, have your team surrounding you and have their stories tight. Like, there's that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were old time, like 1920s and 30s Hollywood movie stars, and they were known for their incredibly intricate dance numbers in their movies. And the quote is that Ginger did everything that Fred Astaire did backwards and in heels in terms of the dance sequences. That's what women need to do when preparing for an exit. We need to be able to do everything backwards and in heels. And then the second part of it is that internal underestimation of ourselves. If you can shift your perspective to one of, instead of waiting for permission or am I enough, to I have a fabulous offer, let's see if we're a good match, that changes everything in the conversation. And then after that, I feel like gender kind of falls away.
Hmm.
But both sides, both parties in that transaction are kind of bringing gender up front when they come to the sale. So if we can be the first ones through the door prepared and coming from a place of offering something valuable, then it changes the whole nature of the transaction.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the level of just kind of psychological boundaries that are in place just across the board, like men and women in this whole process, is pretty remarkable. I mean, the valuation piece, especially where there's
Oh
so much
man.
to it, and there's so much to coming to the table with a number, and how much like courage it takes to just do it and to back it up and to constantly back it up is really
Yeah.
underrepresented, I think, across the board, men and women uniquely together when they're going to the table to sell. And you said it really well of just underpricing, and it starts with yourself, like knowing
Yep.
like, all right, this is what I've built, this is what is deserved in the valuation, and being able to just have that confidence is just such a foundational piece for the whole
Yeah.
process.
We when we're over here working with female founders, we practice a lot
Hmm.
and come in hard with all of the objections, all of the questions, all of the gaps in the story, and give everybody a chance to run at it and develop their ability to deliver that information, not only because it needs to be delivered to be able to adequately represent the value of your company, but also because it builds your own belief in the story of what you've built as with each practice moment that you take. You
Yeah.
have to sell yourself before you can sell your business to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And my favorite question that comes up pretty frequently is timing. So I think
Yeah.
when to sell, and everybody's different. Every business is different. Everybody's at different chapters. I guess from your experience with so many different entrepreneurs, men and women, what have you seen when the right time to sell is?
So my mom, when we were first looking for our first house, um, I was caught up in timing the market. Like, oh, it's, home prices are great right now, or home prices are down right now, or whatever. And my mom was like, you just need a freaking place to live. Just buy your first house and then live in your first house and deal with it. And I feel similarly with founders with timing the market. There's certainly, if you are prepared, fully prepared for a sale, there may be more advantageous moments to move on it. But in terms of when is the right time for you to sell, the question I always ask is, what do you want out of it? Like, do you want big dollars? Do you want freedom? Do you want to be able to reduce your workload and transition into somebody else managing something? Um, do you want to be able to hand it off to your team? And the answer to those questions start being managed 3 to 5 to 10 years before you want to execute on them. So it's difficult to say what's the right timing to sell a business if you haven't prepared to sell your business prior to that.
Hmm. I like that. Yeah, the sort of knowledge that you get over time, and people that exit multiple times. I think there's like a kind of cadence set. I've noticed even like the amount of years that they'll operate and same procedures. It's kind of a like a rubric that they use.
Yes. Well, if you think about that, like let's say you have a SaaS company and it's your first one. That first time around, the amount of like it's a whole rodeo to get it ready to sell. But when you go into potentially creating the next one, the follow on, and maybe you're still in the same space, then you can get into that cadence of like, okay, we're like building this and we're going to be out in 3 to 5 years. Like 3 to 5 years is kind of the window, depending upon the type of business that you have, the kind of funding that you have, and when you want to be able to get out of it. And it takes about that time to build it to a big enough revenue number and enough systems in place that it's valuable to somebody on the outside. So there's sort of like the industry best practices or numbers that people recognize. But like I was saying in the beginning, we are working with the emotional part of what it's like for a founder as well as the tactical part. And sometimes, especially for first timers, you just don't have all of the things in place that you need to be able to sell. So if you're open right now, if you are a founder that is operating right now, decide when your exit's going to be. I don't care if it's like 10 years from now, but decide, because just making that choice of I would like to be out on January 1st, 5 years from now, will change everything about how you're operating today and how you're building your systems, the kinds of people that you're hiring. You might find that you're going to like dismantle a lot of what you currently have operating because you haven't built it to actually exit.
Hmm. It's actually a really good segue or perfect segue into the female leadership accelerator. That I was doing some
Yeah.
research on it, and I think leadership in general is really just an I guess under taught part of business in terms of like getting people in a comfortable place where they can lead a lot of different people and communicate with owners and shareholders of their own business.
For
So
sure.
what what kind of advice can you share with us in terms of communication with shareholders, with teammates as you go through something like an exit?
Um, when you go through an exit, you're managing so many things that you buyers, employees, investors, customers. Um, Clear, confident communication is the foundation of all of this stuff, because you can get your numbers together or somebody else on your team can get your numbers together, but if you can't tell a story and communicate them well, it doesn't matter. If you can't retain your team as you're going through a transition. It doesn't matter. So transparent communication is super helpful. And the best way to practice that is just to practice that. Start with the people on your team that are closest to you and test drive some of your communication. So, for instance, if you're getting ready to do like a quarterly update for your business and your team, test it all out on your team first, like your insider circle, and or maybe some of your investors, and get some feedback and find out, like, how is this landing? Is this actually connecting with people? Do they understand what I'm saying? You can get 360 reviews from your team, or from your closest inside circle, or from your company as a whole. Like, be willing to hear the bad news, hear that you're not coming off the way that you think that you're coming off, so that you can continue to improve the way that you're delivering your message.
Hmm. And I would say timing and preparedness are the most popular. My favorite
Yeah.
question is mistakes. So what's the kind of typical pitfalls that you see founders make throughout the exit process?
Yeah. Well, timing and preparedness for sure. But to break those down a little bit further, like to go a little more micro with it, um, what I find often is that founders will get to a place where they're frustrated, where they just want out. They just want the process to either start or be done. They've lost their patience with what it takes to be able to sell, and they get frustrated because they're in the sales process and not in the operations of the business process. And then things start to break down, meaning the business you're not communicating well enough with the leadership of the people who are keeping your business operational while you're in a sales process, and so you start to lose team, like the wheels start to come off. So that's a preparation piece, but it's not preparation in the way that you think. It's preparation in the way that in the way that you think. Like, it is preparation in the way that you think. Do you get what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
People think that, oh, okay, I've got all my systems in place. We've got our revenue where it needs to be. We've got all the right hires, that, all of our clients and our customer numbers are where they need to be. Like, all of our stuff is buttoned up, but it's the preparation of the founder themselves, knowing that they have to take some freaking deep breaths, because it can be a long, very painful, very humbling process to be able to sell your business. And so you've got to have your mental game on point. And that's where I see the majority of my founders needing the most support.
Hmm. And this has been said multiple different ways on the pod previously, and one of my favorite ones was the mental shift from predator to prey. Literally,
Hmm.
like as this as what it takes to
That's a good way
get
to put it.
to the stage of selling, and then just turning it off and just flipping completely backwards to just providing it to someone else as like a strategic or move for somebody else is such a mind melting exercise that I think it's difficult for people to really kind of comprehend the level of balancing all the different spinning plates. I always think of that GIF of just spinning like 10 different plates at once. But I think communication is really like a difficult part that people aren't really taught in many ways, of like how to
Hmm.
communicate unilaterally across all these different individuals that you're interfacing with on a daily basis throughout the
Hmm.
process. But I feel like that's sort of the the gist of it, is like being able to communicate
Yeah.
properly.
We use with our founders, we use the DISC Work of Leaders tool. It's an assessment that leaders can take, and it's to me it's a faster way than getting 360 feedback. 360 feedback is really helpful, but
Hmm.
the Work of Leaders tool gives you your disc type and style, like how you most likely communicate, what your natural preference and style is.
Hmm.
And it gives you a way to kind of type the people that you're working with. So you can type the investors that are coming in that might
Hmm.
be interested. And from that, you can bridge the gap between you probably noticed in the way that we're talking, I like to talk fast. I tend to talk in bullet points. I wrap it up. Other
Mhm.
people like to tell long stories. So if you have an understanding of what your communication style is, and then the styles of the people that you're looking to affect, you can adjust appropriately to be able to connect with them more effectively.
And you kind of answered my last question before the finale, which is how how to position yourself based on that style to kind of be a magnet for buyers and investors. So
Yeah.
maybe we can unpack that really briefly here of like what are some actual tactical things that you can do to attract.
Yeah. To attract buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us, usually we're looking at what's on offer and who are the kinds of investors or buyers that are interested in that type of business. Like, um, we're looking at, like, for instance, I helped a fertility clinic sell into a larger conglomerate that was interested in acquiring smaller clinics. So we were looking, but before they settled and that was the direction that they went, they were looking at partnering with other clinics. They were looking at acquiring other clinics. They were looking at women's health initiatives and women's health clinics that don't offer fertility. Like they were looking for sort of um, shoulder companies, people that share a similar audience but do different things. So when we're looking for buyers, that's the kind of sussing out that we're doing to
Mhm.
match somebody up with the right kind of people. But then when you get into the actual conversations of pitching and sharing, who's in the room? What do you know about them? Can you find YouTube interviews, podcast interviews that they've done so you can see how they express themselves? Um, can you talk to them? Use your LinkedIn network and find out who knows or has been in a room with those folks to find out what their styles are, what kinds of questions they like to ask. Can you see
Okay.
other founders from businesses that have been acquired by that particular investor or particular buyer? And from there, are they fast talkers? Are they bullet pointers? Do they tell stories? Do they want to know your whole, what it's been like since you grew up before they're willing to learn more about the business? You can start to make the shifts once you have an idea of who's actually sitting in the room with you. And those are some of the tools that we use. Like LinkedIn is incredibly valuable. And with the world of podcasts being as thick as it is today, you can almost find, a few words by anybody in writing on Google and in podcasts. So you can get a pretty good sense of what it's going to be like to be in a room with them.
Yeah, and I can only imagine that AI is gonna just give you basically like a whole persona of just based on all the information out there on like LinkedIn and podcasts and social media in general. I feel like over the next couple of years, you'll have an exact persona of the
Yeah.
person.
Well, and I mean, we're power users of ChatGPT and Claude and a lot of other AI tools over here. And I mean, you can create an entire conversation with it and have it poke holes in what you're presenting. You can share the deck. You can have it create the persona of the person. You can have it help you draft your opening statements and your presentation, and then you can have it argue back and forth with you to be able to improve your presentation.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that takes us to the
Yeah.
finale. Knowing what you know now,
Okay.
what would you tell Don 10 years ago?
So we've talked about having things buttoned up to sell, but I would say take risks and be messy. Women often are feel like they need to be pretty polished and perfect before they share, and I think it inhibits our risk tolerance. It inhibits our business growth and taking big wild swings, and it inhibits the number that we'll get when we go to sell. So be messy and take risks.
Love it. Love it. Well, those are all the questions I have. Where can
Yeah.
people learn more about what you're working on now?
I'm on LinkedIn at Free Range Thinking, and that is the best place to find me.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, those are all the questions. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your
Oh,
story.
Steve, I have one more thing for you. I forgot to tell you. Hold
Oh,
on.
yeah. Go for it.
Um, if your folks are interested, I put
Uh-huh.
together an exit checklist
Ooh.
that we'll have available for them.
Okay.
And you could find it at freerangethinking.com/exit checklist.
Cool. Well, wherever you guys are listening on iTunes or Spotify, the links that Don mentioned will be in the show notes. But thanks so much for coming on, Don.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.